Fallout might genuinely be the most impactful series of entertainment I have consumed in my life. I've played every game at least once, and played all the good ones for several hundred hours apiece. There is much to these games that pose to you multifaceted dilemmas of justice and moral code, and instead of a paragon of morality telling you what to think, lays the cards on the table and asks,
"What do you believe in, huh? What do you believe in?"
I believe.
If someone tells you that Fallout is about modern politics or rampant consumerism, or writes it off as a weepy ode to Oppenheimer's warnings, you can safely label them a midwit and ignore their input to the conversation. But what the hell are you talking about, you might ask? Look at these propaganda posters, the Gilded Age equality gap, the civil unrest, the uncaring corporations merging with the callous government into a hideous hydra of bourgeoisie exploitation. Such was the same everywhere in the Fallout universe. It's mentioned right in the preamble. These things aren't happening either. Happened. In Fallout 2, nuclear Armageddon was almost 2 centuries ago. We built the steam train 2 centuries ago. The Ottomans and the Prussians existed 2 centuries ago. The empires rising out of our nation's corpse might have an idea of America, of capitalism and socialism. But why would they give a shit? Why would anyone care about these plucky billboards selling you something that simply doesn't exist anymore? You think this knuckle-dragger even knows how to read? Trickle-down economics is a real funny way to say rain. To say that Fallout is just a jab at this or that is the same kind of brainless behavior that makes people think something like 1984 or Fahrenheit 451 is a radical deconstruction on insert 1900s political doctrine. That's wrong. That's 4 legs good, 2 legs bad logic. These books ask you, require you, to be introspective of the society you're living in to truly appreciate and utilize them. Fallout asks you to disregard any values you associate with America, and any sense of civility when you leave your pristine vault into the barren American wastes. Trust you me, I could absolutely make a 50-minute essay on how Fallout totally smashes communism actually, but what does that accomplish? In this universe, these massive political dogmas aren't even in the question anymore. They're just the traditions of people that died long ago, the ones that got us into this mess. Fallout might exist as a parody of the Cold War, or a cautionary tale about countries going mad, but the games themselves have never been about our lives turning to ash. It's been about the life that comes after the fire. Up until Fallout, this was the peak Wasteland experience. Because it's Wasteland, Fallout brought the Doomsday RPG into a tolerable graphic fidelity, though I know many have skipped these ancient classics. A few brave souls who endured the wastes were never the same. They're clunky, esoteric, and incredibly out of date. But Dex checking our way past technical hurdles, and the isometric Fallouts are still just a ball-blistering experience. When playing these games, I need you to remember this single simple acronym: ABS. Always be scummin'. Always save, because there are no autosaves. First thoughts on the California Wasteland. This game brought with it a lot of the iconic mainstays. Kind of shockingly so, considering how many hands Fallout has changed. I gotta credit Bethesda. Ghouls, super mutants, Psycho, Mentats, Power Armor, Death Claws, Brahmin, Herald.
Got killed.
It's pretty cool seeing how little the aesthetic has changed. Not just the retro future tech, but all the stuff that had you asking yourself, what the fuck? All the way back in Fallout 1. But you're a long ways from shouldering a fat man, sport, cause that's not till Fallout 3. Also, your pathetic noodle arms are a mere strength 5. But worry not, old chum. In Fallout, everyone is special. I love the special system. I think it's the best attempt at distribution of human traits, and only half of my reasoning is because it's an acronym. Behold, none. Strength, heroic. Everything else, non-critical. Objective, survive. Pro tip. Click here if you actually want to name yourself. Vault 13's water chip is damaged, and you have been voluntold to go get a fix for it. The vault's been sealed since before you were born. Your only tip is Vault 15. Perhaps they will have a spare. You're also on the clock, so don't dick around too much. 150 days. Time passes much faster during travel, so keep your marathons to a minimum, and you'll be fine. Most builds can survive in the wastes, but a preferred weapon and a tactical skill is the bare minimum for a smooth start. As we take our first steps out of the door, we have our first combat. Even the humble rat can humble you with a critical hit. You can become a force of nature, as in all Fallouts, but this one will not hand the wasteland to you so easily. You can be quick-witted and nimble, humble and hulking, an idiot savant, or just an idiot.
You are either stupid or making fun of me. Either way, I will not waste my time.
If you got the gumption to survive, and you remember abs, you can thrive. We go east, towards Vault 15, towards your people's salvation. But this is an RPG, so the reptile brain takes over in 5 seconds, and welcome to Shady Sands, a quaint little agriculture community. Somehow this little dirt pile takes over the entire west coast, but right now, they can't cope with rad scorpions or pistolier bandits in the south, and before you judge them, neither can you. Ian though, he can face tank like 3 of these bastards. Ian costs 100 caps for eternal servitude. I don't have that kind of cash, so I'm going to barter for it, starting with Ian. Once you've acquired your Ian, barter with the doorman for some rope. This is critical, then you can carry on to Vault 15. The OG title's topographical maps really capture the hapless vibe of California after it burned down. By now you've likely encountered a horde of bandits or scorpions, both of which want to punch many neat little holes into you. Some encounters aren't worth engaging. Either you are outmanned, outgunned, or you just don't want to fucking fight a dozen of these little garbage-dwelling plague lords. And there's nothing here. Well, off to Junktown. Maybe one of these strung-out scrappers have happened upon a perfectly protected wafer manufactured in a highly advanced techno. Though we did find someone who wants to die. Dispatch him and talk to the shopkeep.
The name's Killian Darkwater.
He's got a gig for you. Gizmo is a fat tub of shit that wants to run the town. This is the first quest where you're given a couple different choices to complete. I'm siding with Killian because, I mean, dude's got a mark and all he does is sell trash. Fallout 1's quests are very black and white. Do we fight the raiders or do we slaughter the women? You know, it's a tempting offer, but I much prefer killing children. Is Fallout about being a monster? It can be. You can literally be turned into a monster, even if it ends the game. Nearly every Fallout game lets you do truly reprehensible shit. But I'll have to keep an eye out in the rest of the games to see if there's any scenario that actually tests my moral code. If you need an example of what I mean, Last of Us 1, Joel in the hospital. Tangent aside, we're going to play Kingmaker in Junktown by squeezing a confession out of Gizmo. Caught this 2-bit baby back bitch in 4K. Let's go punk his ass. With that, the community is safe. Except for these cannibals down here. The community is safe. What's this? A dog. Excelsior. These residents said that a grizzly older gent with jet black hair, a leather jacket, and a shotgun on his hip left the dog here. Probably took off in a black interceptor. Dog meat is a Mad Max reference. Everything you've known or loved is a lie. This little pooch was a random pop culture joke that became a crowd favorite because, of course, he's a goddamn good boy. Is Fallout about pop culture? Well, kind of, yes. I feel like all the Fallouts people actually respect are full of these fourth wall nudges, and it's kinda neat to see the games date themselves to the cultural zeitgeist in their genre at the time. But I don't think that's what Fallout's about. I'm feeling myself now. We're ready for our first big scrap with the raiders. About a dozen dudes with rude attitudes. I strut up to one of them and I said, "Brother, you're cruising for a bruising." Then I mutilate his face with brass knuckles. How is Fallout 1 combat? Better question, what is Fallout 1 combat? It's a mix of maneuvering, gambling, and hoping and praying each turn that no one crits you because you forgot the last time you saved, then reloading anyways because your dog got atomized. Another band of bad guys dead, another reward not to be found. The Hub. A merchant supercenter. Not much is happening at first glance, but this is a major city in California, so prostitution, drugs, and cannibalism runs rampant just under the surface. The Hub has earned its name. Caravans await muster for their long treks to other towns. Just about every building is a place for caps to be spent and goods to be traded. If you're short on shekels, you can do guard work. If you're short on time, the water merchant can supply your vault. I chose not to do this, as I figured blabbing about a secret sacred vault full of jumpsuit pansies would go poorly. One of the things I always really loved about Fallout is the environmental storytelling. Not that, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about the main quest of the game, how it seeps into every inch of the wasteland, affects each resident differently. New Vegas does this beautifully, but we will get there. Dinner before dessert. The big dig in the hub. Caravans are going missing. No one knows why. Some think it's heavily armed bandits. Others think it's the other merchant guilds sabotaging competition. More so, the secretive technophiles, the Brotherhood of Steel, are up to the north as well. Even more rumors tell of a toothy, horny, beefy beast that ravages the caravans. All of them are wrong. It's the Master's Scouts body snatching for their next experiment. But what does the story tell us about the environment of the hub? There's enough great threats in the wasteland that any one of their theories could have been true. Anyone, no matter how mad, can still be useful. The Master's army is expanding, threatening the wasteland's fledgling communities. And finally, the hub is doomed to fail, because the power players refuse to cooperate with each other, and they won't survive a unified force. Anyway, I found a stairwell in the ghetto, so I'm gonna go investigate.
The first test was just getting here. That's the only reason I'm considering you.
The Thieves Guild seems to only exist for a fetch quest, and to get this electro-hacker tool before the 11th hour of the game. There's a decent bit of content in Fallout that's still fun to do, but just not relevant to the discussion. It's made it difficult to write about this game, because for every beat of intrigue in the main quest, there's 3 more stories waiting to be told. Part of why I love Fallout is that in any corner, crack or crevice, there could be a completely new interaction. Some of which I wasn't even aware of even after my 4th playthrough. So I concede, Thieves Guild, you're not just a fetch quest. You're a side quest, and you make Fallout a fuller place. The church is here as well, so I strut on over to this guy and ask him what's up.
Why do you disturb an elder of the cathedral? Continue to mock me, and I will have you thrown out. Leave.
I appreciate NPCs having a sense of autonomy, but the amount of people with an ounce of authority who tell me to fuck off hits a little too close to home, and you could say such kind of treatment might make a motherfucker a little unhinged. So I came to worship, they rejected me, so now I've come to collect. The Boneyard and the Cathedral are just south of the hub. We'll talk about the church later, but the Boneyard's quest was such a technical mess I couldn't finish it, so fuck you, Arty Town, stay a slave camp, for all I care. From their humble beginnings tucked away under a shack in the middle of the desert, the Brotherhood's come a long way from their debut here. I think the most consistent and interesting distinction between the OGs and the rest of the universe is their modernization. Much of their language is unchanged. A scribe is a nerd, a knight is a warrior, and an elder a leader. However, their mannerisms have. The smooth operator, organized military aesthetic of the later games is all but gone here. You don't go on a mission, you go on a quest.
Need a quest first.
Old tech is not equipment or machinery, it's relics and artifacts. Knights don't go on patrol, they go on crusades. The other flavors of Brotherhood aren't bad, but they've all but lost their original aspirations of knights in shining armor, saving people during dark times. Even if this was already an ironic delusion, since they're also incredibly reclusive and untrusting, as you can see more in Fallout 2 and New Vegas.
Okay, consider them forgotten, along with the projections that predict they'll be our biggest enemy. Forgotten!
They won't admit it directly, but the boss aren't interested in new recruits. Fortunately, I'm too bullheaded to die in a suicide mission. The glow seems to be a ground zero for some kind of nuclear bunker buster, piercing the heart of this pre-war research facility. It's heavily irradiated. Medics and Radaway are a must. Lest you find yourself halted mid-trip, puking and shitting your organs out because gamma rays have perforated your organs at an atomic level. After you play a Doom level and turn the power back on with a sufficient repair skill, you can talk to Zax, a supercomputer. The very same as Fallout 3, I believe. I like Zax. It would have been an easy slam dunk to set up some psychotic, I have no mouth and I must scream situation with these vats down here. Instead, you find a polite custodian of knowledge, who will freely share all it can with you, turn off its defenses for your safe passage, and accept a friendly game of chess. Zax ironically feels like a glimmer of humanity amongst the wreckage. Its only goals are to explore and catalog knowledge, and share that with you. The role of a teacher. Very human machine. Study its history. It may help you in the future. Through your travels, you may find the lost city hidden in the Sea of Sands, Necropolis. This is a cannibalistic ghoul ethno-state, whose heritage is from a vault below the city that Vault Tech decided to make extra radical. I hate this place. I remember to this day getting hauled off by Harry and losing my first save of this game. I don't like it any better every time I've returned. I know there's things to do here because I'm reading the wiki as I type this out, but I can never find it, and everyone is hostile. And also, this Set guy and all of his ghoulish goons are walking skeletons, and Set genuinely believes he can take the Brotherhood. Brother, that fight would be the wasteland equivalent of Conoco Fields. Despite their extremism, the Necropolis population is not a monolith. These kind souls down here are just trying to survive like everyone else. They tell of a water chip situated deep in the vault, but with their water purifier dysfunctional, it is their only means of fresh water at the moment. It seems a bit inconsistent. Why would ghouls care about clean water? I thought that was one of their major strengths, resilience. Regardless, fresh water is good for all, so I use my handy repair skill and fix their machine. Then I steal the water chip. I must go now. My people need me.
You saved the vault. You should be
Back to the Brotherhood. Once you knock out the water chip task, Fallout really ramps up. Not only will encounter scale as many of the factions of the wasteland mobilize, but all of the endgame content is as interesting as it can be challenging. I found many of California's inhabitants just had their brains baked by the sun, but as soon as the writers introduce a character with any ambition at all, they immediately feel much more real. Could be the stacked voice acting cast, could be just solid writing, but no one important falls flat in Fallout.
capture him.
The Brotherhood's leadership has read the reports, your reports, but knows not what to do about the forced evolution virus, or its sudden outcropping of FEV animal dunkers that are terrorizing the wasteland. Elder Maxon, the founder, yes, the very same lineage, employs you to find just where these freaks seem to be coming from. The Northwest is the most dangerous corner of the map. Mutants wield weapons that can crumple even the hardest armor with a critical hit. Now that we know there's some freaky deaky shit going down, the Elders are ready to lend aid. Also, the Mariposa installation has 4 floors of big green angry men, laser traps, and party poppers. It's easily the longest and most difficult fight in the game, and I'm a little peeved that you guys didn't have my back. The Master's army has been hauling fresh meat from the wasteland, such as those caravanners, and turning them into super mutants, ever expanding towards world domination. But we're putting a stop to that. We fought a lieutenant down in the bunker, but no one such master was found amongst the rubble. We've walked a long road and dredged the deepest pits. There's only one place for the master to still be hiding. I think it's high time I have a talk with the Lord. Finally, the guy who's got sneaky tendrils all across the waste. A gangly pile of biomass gruesomely affixed to a place of power from before the war. So proud, so cocksure. So ready to bring his gift of green to the rest of the wasteland, and willing to smite or forcibly convert any who challenge him. It is here that we see the horseshoe theory at work. Example 1. The bottom of the barrel of the bell curve. The Virgin Master meekly refutes. Ad hominem, you're just too dull for my genius. The Chad, unbothered, well-read vault dweller can easily elaborate on the actual high IQ nature of the Int 1 dweller's insult. The big squeeze on the Master's plan is that no matter how hard you squeeze a mutie's hog, nothing comes out. Leveraging this information, a player can coerce the Master to prematurely end their project, interact with a hatred of mankind, and an inescapable guilt, take themselves out of the wasteland equation. Fallout 1, the only strategy game where telling your opponent to kill themselves is not only a valid tactic, but a meta one. A game truly beyond its times. Is Fallout 1 important? Critically, this has got to be one of the oldest titles with a yet active modding community, albeit almost entirely from the former Soviet bloc, and stands as a cornerstone for wasteland RPGs. Is Fallout 1 fun? No. Is Fallout 1 good? Naturally. Video games are a difficult medium to preserve. The older Fallout gets, the further its DNA frays, quests breaking, AI failing, hard crashes. But it asks a question through labored breaths. What was Fallout 1 about, then? Contrary to my likely clickbaity title, I think it's about the player. Fallout asked me a question at a time I was mature enough to answer,
What do you wanna do with your life?
and as a video game, in the wasteland, there was no peer pressure or social contract. The only correct answer was your honest one. Fallout focuses on player freedom, and a radical world to explore its potential in. My ending sucked though, man, what the hell. I understand there's a lot of time constraints for places like Necropolis, but why did the hub get destroyed? What else was a man to do? Why were the raiders still a scourge? I took care of their one settlement in the first month on the range. Really, nothing at all went well. And then to finish their drop kick to my metaphorical dick, I get kicked out of the vault. Fine, fuck you people. Rot in your airtight prison, you cowardly prick. I'll make my own community. With blackjack and hookers, and situated right next to a big-ass Indiana Jones set for some reason. Fallout 2 review confirmed. I'd like to stream it as well as other games for a little more interaction on this channel, so I'll work on a schedule for that. Like, subscribe, and tell me about your wasteland stories. The best way you can help this channel grow is exposure. The second best way is kicking me a few bucks on Patreon, because the insurmountable guilt of being paid in advance will have me locked in to make more videos anyway. Stay tuned, and stay safe out there.
Is not growing all day.